It all started in a dorm room, imagine that! New York University, 1984. Rick Rubin was just a student, but he was a student with a serious passion for music. He loved punk rock, he loved heavy metal, and he loved this new sound bubbling up from the streets, this raw energy called hip-hop. He wasn't just a fan, though. He was a creator. He had a 4-track recorder and an ear for something different. He wanted to capture that raw, unfiltered power he heard in the parks and clubs. This wasn't about making polished pop songs. It was about bottling lightning. It was about making something real, something that hit you right in the chest. Then you have Russell Simmons. Russell was the complete opposite in some ways. He was already deep in the New York City scene. He was a promoter, a manager, a hustler in the best sense of the word. He understood the business of the streets. He knew how to get things done. He was managing his brother's group, Run DMC, and he saw the future. He knew hip-hop was more than just a passing trend. It was a culture. It was a voice for a generation that didn't have one in the mainstream. Russell had the vision to take this culture from the block to the boardroom. He saw the potential for a global movement. These two guys came from different worlds, a Long Island punk rock kid and a savvy Queens promoter. But they shared one powerful belief. They believed that hip-hop deserved to be heard. They felt it needed to be taken seriously as an art form. At the time, major record labels just didn't get it. They thought it was a novelty act, something that would fade away. Rick and Russell knew better. They saw the passion, the creativity, and the power. They decided to build a home for this music themselves. And that home was a simple, bold idea called Def Jam Recordings. The name itself says it all. Def was slang for cool, for the best. Jam was the music, the party, the sound. It was a declaration. They weren't asking for permission to join the music industry. They were building their own wing. Their headquarters was Rick's dorm room at Weinstein Hall, phone ringing off the hook, tapes and records stacked everywhere. It was pure, beautiful chaos. This wasn't some fancy corporate office. It was the heart of a revolution, beating to the rhythm of a drum machine and a scratched record. This was the ground floor of something huge. Rick and Russell had a very specific vision. It was radical for its time. They wanted to merge the raw energy of hip-hop with the sonic power of rock music. Rick was obsessed with the heavy drums of Led Zeppelin and the loud guitars of AC/DC. He imagined taking those massive sounds and putting them under the intricate rhymes of an MC. This wasn't about watering down hip-hop to make it more palatable for the mainstream. It was about making it bigger, louder, and more undeniable. It was a sound that would force people to pay attention, whether they wanted to or not. Their goal was to present hip-hop artists as true stars, not as novelty acts, but as legitimate artists with careers and a point of view. Before Def Jam, many rap records were made quickly and cheaply. The focus was often on the party track single. Russell and Rick saw the potential for full albums, for cohesive artistic statements. They wanted to create LPs that you could listen to from front to back, just like a classic rock album. They believed that MCs were modern-day poets and that their stories deserved to be told with respect and artistic integrity. This was a major shift in thinking for the genre. Of course, this vision was met with a lot of skepticism. The established music industry just didn't see the value. They heard noise, not music. They saw street kids, not potential superstars. Getting meetings with major distributors and radio stations was a constant battle. People would laugh them out of the room. They couldn't understand the culture. They didn't understand the stripped-down, aggressive sound Rick was crafting. It was too raw, too urban, too different from the polished pop and R&B that dominated the airwaves at the time. This resistance only made them work harder. They knew they had something special. They believed in their artists and their sound with an unshakable confidence. Their vision was to create a brand. Def Jam wasn't just a label, it was a stamp of quality. If a record had that Def Jam logo on it, you knew it was going to be authentic. You knew it was going to be hard-hitting. They weren't just selling records, they were selling an attitude, a lifestyle, and a cultural identity. They were building an empire from the ground up, one record at a time, against all odds. Money was a huge problem in the beginning. Everything was funded by hustle. Rick borrowed money from his parents. Russell used his connections and whatever cash he could pull together from his promotion ventures. Every dollar was stretched. They couldn't afford fancy studios or expensive equipment. Their first releases were pressed in small batches. They would drive around the city themselves, delivering records to stores and DJs out of the trunk of a car. It was a grassroots operation fueled by pure passion and the belief that the music would eventually speak for itself. This wasn't just business, it was a mission. Their first official release with a catalogue number, Def 001, was I Need a Beat by a 16-year-old kid from Queens named James Todd Smith. We know him as LL Cool J. LL had sent a demo tape to Rick's dorm room, and Rick heard the potential immediately. The track was relentless, just LL's confident rhymes over a powerful, sparse beat created by Rick. It was the perfect introduction to the Def Jam sound. It didn't sound like anything else on the radio. It was aggressive, confident, and raw. The success of that single proved that there was an audience for this new style of hip-hop. The teamwork between Rick and Russell was the secret ingredient. They were a perfect balance. Rick was the sonic architect. He would be in the studio, obsessing over drum sounds and arrangements. He was the quiet, intense visionary focused entirely on the music. He knew how to strip a song down to its most powerful elements. Russell was the opposite. He was the public face, the deal maker, the marketing genius. He was the one who could talk his way into any office and convince anyone that this music was the future. He built the hype and managed the business. This dynamic duo produced hit after hit. After LL Cool J's success, they signed a group of guys from Brooklyn who brought a whole different energy, the Beastie Boys. Their single rock-hard, cleverly sampled AC/DC's Back in Black, perfectly realizing Rick's vision of fusing rock and rap. This was a game changer. It broke down musical barriers and brought a new audience into the world of hip-hop. These early hits weren't just songs, they were statements. They were proof that Rick and Russell's crazy idea was not only working, but was about to change everything. The impact of Def Jam on hip-hop cannot be overstated. They transformed it from a regional, single-driven genre into a national, album-oriented art form. By producing classic LPs like LL Cool J's Radio and the Beastie Boys' License to Ill, they set a new standard. These albums were treated with the same seriousness as a major rock release. They had iconic artwork, cohesive themes, and superior production quality. Def Jam told the world that hip-hop artists were true album artists, capable of creating timeless bodies of work that would last for generations. More than that, Def Jam gave a powerful voice to a generation of young, black, and urban artists. They provided a platform for them to tell their stories without compromise. Artists like Public Enemy, who they would later sign, used this platform to talk about social and political issues with an honesty that was shocking to mainstream America. The label wasn't afraid of controversy. In fact, they embraced it. They understood that this raw, unfiltered expression was the very essence of hip-hop. They protected their artists' creative freedom, allowing them to make the music they wanted to make. The label also broke down racial barriers in music. By signing the Beastie Boys, a white rap group, and masterfully fusing rap with rock, they brought hip-hop to a massive new audience. Suburban kids who listened to rock radio were suddenly buying rap albums. This cross-pollination of cultures was revolutionary. It helped to legitimize hip-hop in the eyes of a skeptical music industry and a segregated public. Def Jam proved that the power of a great beat and a dope rhyme could transcend race and background, uniting people through a shared love of music. Ultimately, the legacy of Def Jam is one of innovation, authenticity, and rebellion. Rick Rubin and Russell Simmons built more than a record label. They built a cultural institution. They took a sound from a dorm room and a street corner and turned it into a global force. Their work laid the foundation for hip-hop's eventual world domination and changed the entire music business forever. Every artist today who has the freedom to blend genres, speak their mind, and control their own creative destiny owes a debt to the vision and the hustle that started it all in that NYU dorm room.